Hi and welcome to 2.6 called in a website. This video will take you through your write-on task book and hopefully clarify a few things for you. Right, let's look at the next page here. Okay, you don't need to worry about that. You've got a table of contents in your booklet, and you can click on any of those blue links to go to any parts of your booklet there. Okay, easy peasy. Right, what do I have to do? What are the conditions of assessment? So let's have a look at this. The context for this is that you are going to create a website to show that you can create a text that uses visual and verbal features to impress. Okay, so creating a website is a good idea because you get a life skill out of it anyway, so it's something that you probably need to learn how to do. Your website is going to be about, and you have three choices: a text that you have studied for your external exam, so your novel or a poem, short story, film; a business you already have, some of you will be doing business studies and you could use that; a cause close to your heart, for example, animal welfare. I hate seeing all the cows and the sheep that need shade in the summer, so you might want to do something like that, something about global warming, prejudice, whatever. I strongly recommend that you stick to your text studies though, because it helps you get to know them better for your externals, and you get to go and you'll find it easier to go into a little more depth with that. Okay, so what's the purpose of your website? Well, there are multiple purposes. First thing, of course, is to capture and engage your audience. This obviously is important for a website because otherwise people just click off it and they don't come back. So hence the name of this task, called in a website. But you've also got to ensure your audience understands the key information about your text. Now, you've been studying your texts for quite some time probably, so you know a lot about it already, and because you're level 2, you'll have analysed it to death. You'll know clearly about the main ideas and how those main ideas are illustrated. Main idea, of course, another word for main idea is theme, also message, motivation behind it. And the other thing that you will need to get across is the moods that are related to your text. So some of the text can be about the anguish of a dystopian setting, or the horror of it, or perhaps it's about hope and joy, something more positive, and that needs to come through in your website. Your audience is going to be obviously the whole world for a website, but you need to make a target audience. So you'll look at websites and you'll realize quite quickly that they are not meant for everybody. Perhaps they're targeting teenagers or middle-aged women or middle-aged men or whatever. Have a look at your target audience. Perhaps it's females, males, that kind of thing. So you're going to think about who you're targeting your website to. Okay, carrying on now to next page, page 5. Okay, the logistics. Now, we're going to suggest you use a Wix website. It helps you create your site in a similar fashion to doing a PowerPoint slide. We'll take you through some steps about how to do that. You're going to just have an account with Wix. You won't actually publish your site because otherwise you'd need to buy a domain name and also pay Wix. We're not going to be doing that, but they will save your website in your account. So you'll show your teacher your website, but so that that teacher can gather the evidence to perhaps send away for moderation or moderate in his or her team, you will need to just take a little video of your website as you navigate through it, or perhaps do some screenshots and create a little document that you can send to them so that they've got the evidence there as well. Now, remember, according to NCEA, a text created for the standard must be standalone. So you can't say, hey, look at my website, miss or sir, and then have to stand there and explain it. The same thing would apply if for some students they might be doing posters or a series of posters or something, or a pamphlet, whatever. You can't have to then explain it. It's got to be able to stand alone, as any good website should, right? Now you can take bits from the from other places, for example your book or a YouTube clip or whatever, and put that into your creation, your website. That's fine. Excuse me. Now here's something vital, your due dates, okay? You're going to have checkpoints along the way. As you can see, there's checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, checkpoint 3. Absolutely crucial that you keep to those checkpoints, and you can see that there are links. You can just click on that to see where in your document you need to be at for checkpoint 1, for example. Now, what you need to do is write in the dates here as explained to you by your teacher. So hopefully you'll go through that as a class and you'll decide on what your checkpoints are, what your checkpoint dates are. Okay, the first thing is first, you need to check out some websites to see how they use visual and verbal techniques, and to how they use those to create specific effects. So the first one we look at here is spookers. As you can see, it's supposed to be horrific. After you've looked at the websites, there is a table to fill in, and we'll have a look at that here. The first one on spookers has been done for you. So we're looking at the purpose and we're looking at audience. Now, what are the key ideas that come across in that spookers website? Obviously, we're talking about terror. So here we have terror. And what verbal techniques, so that's the words, have been used to help create that idea of terror? Well, the company name, for starters, is Spookers. Then they've got the listing, spine-chilling, blood-spilling, thrilling, and sound repetition there, so emphasize idea of an overwhelming experience. What else have they used? Well, look at the adjectives. Terrifying, blood-curdling, so sad and tortured. All right, the verbs, grab, seeping, begging, sprinting, all really active verbs, but all related to running away, obviously, screaming for mercy, and so on. And the pun there, such as disturbia. And then have a look at the visual techniques. Well, what visual techniques help get across that feeling of terror? Well, you can look at the font. There's that spine-chilling font, the colour red, and the connotation. So that's a really good visual thing to keep in mind there, of blood, murder, and so on. The colour yellow clashing with the red, it's uncomfortable. Black, obviously, very strong connotations of death and the idea of darkness and not being able to see. And the general graphics there, the sharp teeth, the veins, the deathly images, they all create terror. But also with this website, there's an element of fun in it because it's so overdone. You can see it's using makeup, computer graphics, obviously not real, as something like Stranger Things might look a bit real. But this one's quite a bit of fun, so you can see how they do that in these columns here through the verbal and visual techniques. Now, let's think about the audience. Who's the target audience? Well, one of the things that you can look at is, think about is, their target audience is probably for those who feel a bit of excitement in their lives, right? That's why you might go to Spookers, because we all like to see a horror or feel a bit afraid. It makes us feel alive. So this box here is explaining the verbal techniques and the visual techniques, and of course there's for the idea of it being for over 16-year-olds as well. So have a read through those. Look at things like the rhetorical question, are you tired of the mundane? Obviously they're trying to captivate somebody who is bored with life. Okay, so now your website is going to have a specific purpose and a specific audience. Now this is the next one. I suggest you click on the link here. Same with Spookers, you can click on the link on Spookers and see the actual website, because obviously there's some writing here that doesn't show up in our booklet very well. We've expanded this bit here so that you can see it a bit better. Now, what we want you to do in the next page is to actually fill in this table yourself. But what we've done is, if you see the red circles here, we have tried to give you a few clues about what's needed, okay? Or what you could think about. What things have they used to help illustrate the purpose and to help cater for that specific audience. You've got to decide what that audience is. Have a look at the graphics. Look at the ages of the people in there. Are there children around? No. Obviously, really catering for couples. You can see in the text box that we've got here, we have highlighted a few words there as well, and they're sort of color-coded into different parts of speech. So have a look at that, and then fill in the table here. Okay, page 10 is just, we've got some suggestions of some sites here that you could look at. You probably know some great websites already that really hone in on a specific theme. They're clearly for a specific audience, and they use their words, so their verbal techniques and their visual techniques to show a very clear message. They give you a really clear feeling. And they leave the audience with something to take away and remember. So have a look at the ones we've put hyperlinks to there, or have a look at some of your own that you quite like. Okay, so now this page is about your verbal techniques, also known as written techniques, and you'll be familiar with all of these probably already. Again, great opportunity to practice for 2.3, your unfamiliar text, because you need all of these things anyway. Okay, so that's a good reference point for that, and there are links going back to that page throughout your document. And the next page is your visual techniques. So again, most of those are self-explanatory. Refer to that as you work. So what is NZQA looking for? There are two aspects to this, and you have to cater for both. Now, the first part is about the ideas that you convey. The second part of the achievement criteria is the techniques you use. So you can't have one without the other. So you've got to have a crafted and controlled website. And within that website, you have to develop, sustain. So that means or sustain your ideas and structure your ideas. Okay, so sustaining means you can't have one fantastic page and then the rest of the website's a bit of a flop. So you've got to sustain it throughout your text. Obviously, structuring, you're thinking about how you are navigating through your website, but also how things like visual and verbal techniques work together. We've got a few questions here that you could ask to help you hone in on that and how you're catering to your ideas, whether or not you're getting those across. For example, we say here, ask yourself, what more could I do here with my graphics or words to help convey my message? Now, message is also about your feelings, the impression you want to give. Perhaps you want to give the impression that a character is courageous, bold. Now, obviously, you're going to get those through with bold colours, perhaps, and a bold font. Perhaps there's a character that's a bit airy-fairy. Illustrate that with your font, things like that. Okay, so that's explained a bit better in this box here. Now, for merit, what do you need to do? What's different? Well, that word convincingly. So you've got to really have a solid website. It's obviously conveying a specific idea, so it's obviously catering to a specific audience. It's the message you are creating is very clear. So we're talking about a really solid effort. Now for excellence, here you've got that keyword effectively. Basically, you've got to have that wow factor. Is it going to be memorable? Is it going to be something that your audience is going to tell other people about? Is it going to be something that really gets them thinking? It's memorable. It starts off some thought processes that they perhaps can't let go. So that's that wow factor. So with the ideas. Now back to how you convey those ideas. Basically, as it's explained here, this means you've deliberately chosen that font, that color, that image, that specific layout because they contribute to the ideas you want to convey. Okay, for example, you could have, two characters, one here, one way over here, and you're clearly showing a relationship between those characters. They are distance. Okay, could perhaps physically, probably emotionally as well. Okay, so that's where your layout comes in. How are you going to convey things through things like layout? Same with your words. They've been deliberately chosen. Now remember the Spookers website, all of those chilling words, the blood-curdling words that helped convey that idea of terror. You need to understand clearly what your purpose is so that, well, you've got to decide yourself so that you really cater for that purpose with your techniques. So your visual techniques as well as your verbal techniques. Again, that word convincing for merit and commanding attention for excellence. So you've got to be quite inventive, quite masterful with your techniques. If you're really good at the visual side of things, perhaps you take art or computer graphics or whatever, you're going to have a bit of a head start if you're naturally inclined. It's also about the way you use them, when you use them. Your audience should be really captivated by your website because of your techniques. And back with the whole idea of your ideas, the ideas are going to be clearly coming through you. There'll be a wow factor there because of the techniques that you used. So you can see they go hand in hand. With your exemplars down here, the NZQA doesn't have any websites that you could use as an exemplar. However, have a look at them. You get the idea of the standard that they're requiring, and you get to see other people's work and see how they have used visual and verbal techniques to create a really holistic effect. Okay, on to page 15. Here is where you start to plan. This is for your website. Now, what's your purpose? Who is your audience? So first of all, decide on your website topic and write that in here. Now, if you're doing your business studies website, that's fine. Put that up there. Again, we recommend focusing on your tech studies, but perhaps you're really into your business website, and why not? I say you need to just have a really good understanding of your branding with your business and what your values are as a business, and then that's got to come through in your website through your visual and verbal techniques. Your purpose, so there's going to be key information that you'll convey, and we're not talking about a list of characters or the title or the author or whatever. We're talking about things like this that you can develop. Okay, so what's the effect of the dystopian setting, for example? Now you can really get into that and develop some ideas. Or you could perhaps have a website about a character in conflict. So external conflicts as well as internal conflicts. Another one would be pick on a character. Is that character truly evil or just misunderstood? And then you're exploring everything about that character. Okay, so there's a big list of them here. Choose one and go in depth and develop it. Don't have your website about all of these things. Choose one and focus and really develop. So what's your main idea that's going to come through here? So there's some examples here that people are greedy at heart, that prejudice is destructive to both sides, and so on. Just have that in your head all the time, because that is going to come through in the graphics that you choose, the words that you choose, the colors that you choose. Okay, and obviously these two are clearly connected. Another thing, just to push it a little bit further, it's kind of up to you if you do this one, but the feelings. So what do you want them to experience? Do you want them to look at your website and think, oh, it's a lovely breath of fresh air? Or do you want them to look at it and think, whoa, that's dark? You have to decide. And obviously your target audience, be reasonably specific on that. It will help you cater better for within your website. Obviously a website for the elderly is going to be quite different in language and graphics than something for teenagers. So that's where your first plan comes in. Now you'll see it's probably just cut off for you there, but this is your first checkpoint. You know, with your due dates, you had a whole lot of checkpoints, or 3 checkpoints. This is the first one. That means you've got to share your document with your teacher and let him or her see your purpose and audience. Perhaps you're not specific enough, or perhaps you're going down the wrong track. This is where your teacher can put you back on the right track before you go further. Next is your navigation plan for your website. We've just put in here a site plan for our website, Drive Resources, and you can see that the site menu is here, and we have 3 key pages, and that's the home page and the store, and here is drop for more. And underneath that, with the green down here, is the sub pages. Now the 3 key pages appear on the navigation bar. You know about the navigation bar at the top of a website, and they appear there. The other pages, the sub pages, either drop down from here. When you click on this, you get a drop down box like this, and then you can click on one of those, unless they're hidden from view, and there's more about that later. But just so that you get an idea of how to structure a website, we've put that in. Okay, you're going to have to think about how you are going to structure yours. So as you can see, page 17 is blank. You can draw on your page on your computer if you've got a touch screen. You can use tables. You can just type. You can just use a blank piece of paper with a pen and write on it. Whatever you choose. So get your navigation sorted. What are you going to convey? Remember, keep going back to your purpose. Your purpose. Your purpose. What's your key message here? And then think, well, okay, what are the parts of that key message? So for example, you're trying to show the courage of a character. That's what your website's going to be like. Okay, how are you going to show that? Are you going to have 3 pages, 5 pages, and then divide that into different parts of that character, or different ways that courage is shown? You've got to decide. Okay, so you've got your purpose, you've got your ideas, you've got your structure, you know basically what your website, how it's going to be structured. Now think about the techniques you're going to use. So this is the first page is your verbal written techniques. You can see there that's a hyperlink. Click on it and it will take you back to that page with all your visual verbal features on. Here again is a reminder, keep your purpose and target audience in mind, and that is a hyperlink to within your document, takes you back to your plan. So just keep it in mind the whole way through. You're showing, you're illustrating your message, the feelings that you want to convey through these verbal techniques rather. Okay, now we've put music in as part of that because I'm thinking song lyrics, that kind of thing. Have a think. There will probably be others, so there's space here to do more. You can add more boxes as you like. Okay, and here is your plan for your visual techniques. Again, videos as part of that there. I suggest as you work, you copy out your URLs, so just copy and paste them from websites where you've got them from if you're using them, and so that they're all ready for you as you're when you go to create your website. Graphics, Wix has a lot of free graphics, so you might be able to look through that first, or you can just pinch them from somewhere else. Okay, page 20, this takes you through how to use Wix, and it's been designed to flow in the order that you would be wanting to do these things. So you can see here it starts off first, you go to Wix and create an account, and then you're creating a new site, and then there's some things here in red. Make sure you pay attention to those. The first one is you've got to click on this side here when you get the opportunity to let Wix create your site for you, or you do it yourself. Obviously you've got to do it yourself, or you have hardly any control. There are so many templates that you can use, but I wouldn't get too caught up in that because you're probably going to delete everything and start again anyway. Okay, so here's what your your toolbar kind of looks like. I never use this, I don't bother, I think I've hidden it. But that's going to be your key, and once you start using it, it sort of changes format to look like this one down here. So one of the first things you're going to do is you're going to click on menus and pages, which is there, and you are going to create your pages. So as we're showing there, you just click on add your page and away you go. Now this diagram here and this explanation up here shows you how to create sub pages and also how to hide them from the main menu or the navigation bar. And here is a really important button here, and this explains excuse me, this is explained here. The plus button here gives you a ton of options to choose from. We've highlighted the ones you're probably going to use most often, and it's anything you're going to add, obviously the plus sign, to your website. So like text, graphics, music, a video, and so on. That'll be your key button. A little tip, we strongly recommend that you actually create what's known as strips. So again, go to the plus sign and hit strip. I just go to classic strip and just choose the white box there, because you can color it. There are amazing backgrounds you can put in. Here's our website here. You can see it is made up of strips. So if I wanted to get rid of this, I just need to pull 3 things up to fill the space. I don't have to pull every individual little graphic and text box up. So it's so much easier if you use strips. You can reorder them and everything then. Here's how to save your work, and also you can use this button here, preview, click on that, and it takes you out of your editor, and it makes it look as though you are looking at a real website, and you can navigate through your website to see what it really looks like, and then when you're finished you get an option to go back to the editor. Everything on your web page you can click on, and you get these little edit boxes here, or edit toolbars, and you can make things bigger, smaller, cut different color, change fonts, center things, and so on. So you're just going to have to play around with them. When you get out of your site, obviously save it as we discuss up here, but when you go back in, there's some instructions about how to do that. You just go to Site Actions and edit your site. Okay, pretty much that's it. You've just got to play now. So it says here, carry on creating your site. Remember, get your navigation right first if you can. And as you can see, there are all these hyperlinks there to help you just go back to the right places in your document. It's just easier for you. Always remember your purpose and audience. Are you sticking to the brief that you've set for yourself? Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting some feedback from your peers. You would do that in the real world anyway. I think it's realistic. So go for it. I reckon they're not doing the job for you, but you are going around and getting feedback. Remember, for goodness sake, proofread. Now, if a website's going out to the whole world, you don't really want to look like a bit of a plonker in front of the whole world with marginal spelling, things that look a mess on the page. You want to look professional. So check, and check again. Now keep an eye on when that draft is due, because that's checkpoint 3, and you need to make sure that you hit that checkpoint, or your teacher is quite within their rights, I think, to say, oh sorry, you missed your checkpoint for the draft, I'm not giving feedback anymore, and then you really are on your own. Your second checkpoint, I missed pointing that out. Where is it? Just there. Okay, so straight after you've planned your visual and verbal techniques. Okay, I think that's about it. Make sure you keep an eye on your final deadline. So you reach your checkpoint 3, hand your draft in, or show your teacher your draft, and once you've got your feedback, for goodness sake, act on it. Act on it so that you can then improve from there. Your draft should be the best you can do until your teacher gives you a few other pointers, steering you perhaps into some areas that you hadn't thought of, okay? So as pointed out here, English totally rules, because this is a life skill that you really have to have. So you're getting some extra qualifications out of it, but you're getting a life skill. So super well done. I hope you enjoy the task. Cheerio, bye.